So these are all my base products, or rather, these are all of the products that I keep in my boxes, my little boxes in my drawer where I keep my base products. So these are all of my primers right now, and this is pretty ridiculous and shocking for someone who used up every last drop of primer during her no-buy year last year and was actually allowed to repurchase a primer under her no-buy year rules last year. So I was down to just one primer that I was using and replacing, and then this happened. Some of these have been gifts from friends, some of these were sent to me in PR, and some of them I purchased. I purchased some of them before I acquired so many by other means. So I purchased this one from Makeup Forever, and I purchased this Smashbox Eye Primer. Let's talk about the eye primers first. So this Smashbox 24-Hour Photo Finish Shadow Primer, this is like my basic go-to eye primer. It's clear, it works very well, and it is almost used up, as you can tell. Like I'm really down to the bottom of it, so this is going to show up in my empties quite soon. I'll definitely keep this and go ahead and finish it. This one from Essence was a gift, and I think I talked when I reckoned with this about the fact that when I took it to Portland, it didn't perform well, I think because of the climate, but it performs perfectly well down here in LA. So I'm going to go ahead and hang on to this one. I think I'll be glad to have it when I use up the one from Smashbox. So I separated these out into their different categories. These are all radiance primers. This is a pore filling and mattifying primer, and these are all green color correcting primers. And this is tough, you guys, because I really love all of these, and I really love primer. And I know that I'm going to use it all up. I mean, base products is a situation where if I love it, I'm going to use it all up. It's not like with eyeshadow palettes where I want to keep my collection small so that I make sure that I'm actually getting use out of the ones that I love the most. It's not like this. Even if I were to put these in order from my favorite to my least favorite, I would still use them all up. I would use up my least favorite as well because all of them are good, all of them are functioning for me, and I do kind of enjoy having a variety of primers. So this is the only pore filling one, so I definitely want to keep it. This is a Becca one I really, really love because it's lotiony, but it also does its job. And it's lotiony, but it doesn't mix with my skincare and mess up my skincare. It also feels very luxe. I like how it smells. I reach for this one a lot. That's the backlight priming filter. This one from Laura Mercier, I really enjoy. It has one flaw, which is that you really have to let it set before you go in with product on top of it, but it gives a beautiful radiance to the skin throughout the day. This Clarins SOS primer, the Radiance primer from Clarins, is one of my favorite primers I've ever used. It's so, so good. And then the Pure No Filter I really love too. I'm going to absolutely keep using all of these, all four of them, until I use them up. There's just no question of that for me. So it makes sense for me to keep them. It makes economic sense. And it also makes sense in terms of what sparks joy because they all spark joy. Over here, the Makeup Forever one was incredibly expensive. I purchased it with a gift card and it was super indulgent. The Clarins one, just like the Radiance one, I'm so impressed by these Clarins primers, you guys. I'm so, so impressed. Lately, my favorite thing to do has been to take half a pump of this and half a pump of this and mix them together. That's like my favorite way to prime lately. So this is one of my top 2 favorite primers right now. So I'm definitely going to keep it. This one I don't like that much. This is the one that I don't like that much. So I'm surprising myself by decluttering a green color correcting primer because that's my jam. Like I really, really love green primers, but this one has that sort of powdery, slippy, silicone-y feel that the Hourglass Veil has. I've never liked that kind of primer. And even though it is green and redness reducing, and it does a pretty good job of reducing my redness, and it's very beautiful in many ways, I have so much primer, and even though I am going to use all of this up, and at some point I'm going to need to buy or acquire more primer, I think that this one is disappointing enough for me when I use it that I can part with it. These are my brow gels, And I don't use either of them very often because I like to do soap brows. I use soap in my brows almost every day. This brow gel, however, from Australis is very, very, very good. And it's nice to have a brow gel in a little container like this for travel, because traveling with my soap brows kit is not very convenient. So I'm very glad to have this, and I'm going to hang on to it. This one from NYX, the Control Freak eyebrow gel, really disappointed me. It doesn't hold my stubborn, wiry brows in place, and I am very happy to say goodbye to it. I guess I could have put this with the primers, but it's not really a primer. It's my green color corrector. I use this almost every day. It's from the Sephora collection. I love it the most of any green color corrector I've ever used. It's the Bright Future color corrector in green. I'm definitely keeping this. It's one of my most used and most beloved makeup products. So this is everything I have that can be called in any way a foundation. These are my foundations. And this, the NARS Sheer Glow in Siberia, has been my old standard for my photo shoots for my business for a couple of years now, probably at least 3 years. This bottle is at least 3 years old. And that is because I only use a little bit when I use it, and I only use it once a week. I never put this foundation on my skin to go out and about in the world because it just doesn't look skin-like. It looks like I've got a face of foundation on, and that's not my vibe when I'm hanging out with people in person. So this has served its purpose, and it's pretty much empty. The last time I did a photo shoot, I tried to get some out and I couldn't. I opened it up and I sort of tried to use the stick from the pump to get more out, and the little stick fell out. So it's done. It's pretty much done. It's gotten to that point where it's not worth the frustration to try to get more product out of this, and it is so, so old. So I am going to go ahead and wash this out and recycle the bottle. I'm not even going to put it in my empties. I'm going to consider this to be its last hurrah on my channel. So these are 3 bottles of foundation from The Ordinary, and I purchased them way back before my no-buy year, when The Ordinary first launched foundations, because I was just really curious about them. So all 3 of them are in the shade 1.0N, so the lightest shade, and in the neutral undertone that they offer. And one of them, this one, is in 1.0NS, which means that it has kind of like a silver mixed into it. It's sort of like an illuminating foundation, I guess. So these 2 are the coverage foundation, and this one is the serum foundation. And I guess I've used kind of a lot of these. The serum foundation in particular feels like it's almost empty. At this point, I pretty much have no use for them. I've kind of had it. I don't find that they wear very well on the skin. There's nothing about the finish that impresses me enough to make me want to use them. I basically reach for them as mixers for my photo shoot makeup looks. I've been mixing them in with this to extend its life for a long time. So the serum foundation, I'm definitely ready to let go of, and it's really almost empty. I don't particularly want to keep either one of these 2, but I think I'm going to hang on to one just for the photo shoots. I'm going to hang on to the illuminating one, the 1.0NS, and I'm also going to declutter this one, the coverage foundation. In a recent Get Ready With Me, I talked about how impressed I have been by this little sample of the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Stick. I have it in the color Opal. It's slightly too cool toned for me, but just a tiny bit of green color corrector balances out. It's so skin-like. It's so nourishing on the skin. I really, really, really love it. And my plan was to get rid of all of these foundations and replace them with a full size of this for the photo shoots. However, in the short time that I've had this little sample stick, it started to smell weird. It smells like it's gone off. And I can't tell if that's just the smell of it that I didn't notice before, or if something got into it. I can't imagine how it could have gone bad in such a short period of time. But the last time I was putting it on my face, it was releasing a smell that made me really quite uncomfortable. It just smells like it's gone off. It smells like it could have some kind of bacteria in it. So I'm not going to use the rest of this up, although it's almost done. I can't even wind it up anymore. I really used almost all of it. I am going to go to the store and smell the ones they have in store and look at them and think about it. If it seems like this was a fluke, or if it seems like this is just the way that it smells and that there's not actually anything wrong with it, I would be able to put up with that as long as I know that there's no danger to my skin. So I am going to say goodbye to that little sample size. And then this right here was sent to me by a subscriber who is a makeup artist in Australia, Sarah. And it's a little sample of the foundation that she uses in her makeup kit. And she sent it because she knew that I was struggling to find a foundation that was light enough for me. And it is a really beautiful shade match for me, but there's something about the texture, it's very, very, very wet. And when I used it, it was like it didn't set down on its own. I would have had to powder it, and I did end up having to powder it, but it was kind of hard for me to work with because I just don't powder. I don't powder my face. I like foundations that set enough so that I don't have to powder them. And I didn't find this to be the right formula for me, just in terms of the way that I work with my foundations. So I really appreciated the chance to try it out. I can't exactly remember the brand right now, but I'll leave it linked down below. I don't think I'm going to be using up the rest of this little sample bottle, so I'm going to pass that on as well. These are all of my concealers, and this, my friends, is where my passion lies. I really, really love concealer. It's what I use pretty much every day. I feel like it's sort of my one and only makeup product. It's my best, my bestie. However, not all of these are my besties. This is the one that I purchased. Well, these both are actually. So I was sort of on the hunt for a new concealer situation a couple of months ago, and this is what I ended up with. This is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD in shade 11, which I believe is called Pearl. It doesn't have the shade name on here, but it's shade 11. And then this is the Hourglass Veil, the Hourglass Retouching Fluid Veil in Vanilla, which is the lightest shade. This Hourglass product, the lightest shade, is just a touch too dark to be brightening in any way on my skin, other than the fact that this product has like luminescent brightening qualities. But these two mixed together, just the tiniest touch of the Makeup Forever HD and then a relatively generous amount of the Hourglass, pat it out with my finger under my eye, is the perfect, completely skin-like, brightening but not too makeup-y concealer look for me. I'm absolutely in love. And I thought that it was all that I would ever love until I received this from Octoly. And it is the extremely bougie Yves Saint Laurent Touche Eclat High Cover Radiant Concealer. It's YSL's new concealer, so it's in the same shape as Touche Eclat and it has the same name, it's in the same line, but it's more of an actual concealer. What I will tell you is that it's high cover for YSL, but it's not a high coverage concealer. It's nothing like Shape Tape. It's nothing like the one from ColourPop that I have. It's not high cover. It's not even as high coverage as the one from Makeup Forever. It's more radiant. It's kind of like somebody took these two and mixed them together and put it into a bottle. And I absolutely love it. I love it. I've been reaching for it almost every day since I got it. I love, 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 love it. It's also the lightest shade currently, and for this launch they went one shade lighter than they had. I haven't previously been able to use anything in the Touche Eclat range because it didn't go light enough for me. The lightest shade was too dark, but the lightest shade of this now is perfect for me. It's not too freakishly brightening, but it definitely is a brightening concealer on me. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous product. Keeping it. So directly after I had tried that one, this, which is the original Touche Eclat, came up in my Octoly free store. And I just couldn't help myself. I was like, I've got to try it, because they also recently went one shade lighter with the original Touche Eclat. And it is very, very, very sheer. It's very beautiful. It's very sheer. I am going to keep it. I will use it, but gosh, I just pumped out a lot. It's very interesting because it's more pink than the Radiant High Coverage. I hope you will be able to see that with the lights beaming down. But here's the original Touche Eclat. You can see that it's kind of peachy and it looks like it sort of matches my skin tone better here on my skin. That's partly because a lot of blood sort of rushes to my hands. I have a slightly yellow toned neutral undertone rather than a pink. So this peachiness, again, like it kind of blends into my hand right here. But on my face, this more yellow toned and sort of whitish one suits me better. However, this peachiness is good for brightening just in the realm of color theory. And I have enjoyed wearing this. It doesn't make my face look redder, which is what I'm often afraid of with pink toned concealers, because it's not really cool toned. It's like it's peachy. It's peach toned. So I have been using it on days when I feel like my skin's in pretty good shape and I don't need that much of a boost. I've been using it. It's beautiful on the skin. It's a really lovely luxe product, and I'm happy to have it. I'm really grateful to have it. So I'm going to keep this one as well. However, I much prefer this one. This is just a stunning product that I'm head over heels in love with. This is one that I feel very special for being able to own. This is my old Shape Tape, and it has been completely dethroned and edged out by these products right here. I haven't reached for it in months, and I really have no reason to keep it, even though I loved Shape Tape for so many years. It served me so well. This was a replacement during my no-buy year. It was my only concealer for a really long time. And this one is the ColourPop No Filter Concealer. Tara sent this to me. It's just so white. It's so white and brightening. It's too bright and white for me, and it really makes me look super made up. I can blend it out, I can make it work, but I really, really look doll-like when I have it on. I look sort of super porcelain, and I look sculpted in that kind of makeup-y way that people look like when they have concealer under their eyes that's a couple shades too bright for them. It's really, really, really bright white. If you're much, much fairer than I am and you have that sort of like super icy, cool toned, bright white skin, then this might be one of the only concealers that will work for you. It's in the color Fair 02. This is my one spot concealer. It's the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in Chantilly, the lightest shade. It's still going strong after a couple of years, and it's the perfect match for my skin tone, which makes it an excellent spot concealer. I really like the texture. It's very effective. I reach for it almost every day. A true staple. So I'm decluttering 2 concealers, and I'm keeping 5, which is more than I thought that I would ever have. It's more than I need according to my philosophy, but similar to the primers, I will use all of these up. And I do love all of them. I love using all of them, and having a variety in this category is somewhat novel and I must say not unpleasant. So these aren't all powders, but they are kind of mattifying and pore reducing products. This I tried to declutter, like I decluttered it already. It's the Nano Blur. I decluttered it because I couldn't find a way to work with it. And I had put it in my giveaway box, and then a couple of weeks later, I noticed that the pores under my eyes were looking gigantic, and I didn't know why. And I pulled it out and patted it a tiny bit on top of my pores after I had finished my makeup, and it healed them. It was amazing. And I was so grateful that I decided to keep it. I haven't used it since then. I used it for this one thing. And I feel like if that were to happen again, I would be able to fix it with the Hourglass product or a powder or something else. I really, really do want to part with this. And I feel like this is it. It's happening. I'm decluttering it once and for all. This is a product that was given to me at the Indie Beauty Expo. It's blotting papers. And I have dry skin, so I almost never reach for blotting. I never reach for blotting papers. I never want them. Sometimes I pull this out and blot with it out of curiosity to see what will happen. And I'm always amazed at how well they work. These Sway blotting papers are really, really gorgeous. And if you're someone who collects blotting paper, or you need to blot your skin, or you blot your skin a lot, I definitely recommend these. This is the matcha ones. They're scented and they smell like matcha, and they're really beautiful. I don't know. I'm tempted to keep this because I'm like, what if blotting papers are for me? What if it's a thing? But it's just not a thing. It's not. I'm going to put this in my giveaway box and find an oily skinned friend who will love it. These are my three powders. I almost never powder my face. And when I do, which is usually on photo shoot days, I usually reach for this one, which is the Besame Violet Powder. I like it because it's super brightening, and I'm almost finished with it. Like, it's really, really almost finished. I keep having to pull the sifter out to get at the powder underneath because there's so little that it's hard to get it to come through. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up with this powder. I don't think that I'll purchase it again because I really, really like this Kevyn Aucoin, the Neo Setting Powder, and I feel like I can use it for the same exact purpose. It's a little bit easier to deal with because it's a pressed powder. It does have a slight luminosity on one side, so it does do that brightening and glowing thing. It's a very, very beautiful powder, and I'm a huge fan of Kevyn Aucoin. So I feel like this is going to be my go-to powder going forward after I finish this one and put it in my empties. This is a little Laura Mercier translucent powder, and I just haven't been reaching for it because I have this one and I have this one. I don't see any reason to keep this around. I did use a good bit of it, but it's just taking up space at this point. So I'm going to declutter this. All right, so here's how things are looking. These are the ones that I'm keeping, the bits of base makeup that I'm keeping, and these up here are the ones that I'm decluttering. There are 21 pieces of makeup down here, and there are 15 up here. Not bad. Not bad, especially considering that this one is definitely going to go. I actually am itching to get it out of my collection. I just know that when the photo shoot rolls around, I'll be glad that I have it because I don't think that any of the concealers that I'm keeping could be stretched to cover the whole face in the way that my Shape Tape used to. I could probably do it with the Makeup Forever, but it's so light in color that I think it wouldn't be ideal for that. So I'm going to keep leaning on this until I find a good foundation. And then that foundation will replace this. So I guess I'll have 21 after all. This to me is a huge success. It's going to be so much more airy and open in my drawer. It'll be so much easier for me to see everything that I have now that I'm offloading these 15 products up here. So this is how everything will likely look in my drawer now. I have my primers over here. It's easy to see them all and select from them, including my eye primers. And then right here, I have everything else. My color corrector, my concealers, those are the things I reach for the most often, and my mascara right here. And then the brow gel, the powders, and the foundation are all easily accessible, all very visible. You can imagine how cluttered it was with those 15 other products in amongst these. This is way, way better. Okay, let's look at these kind of messy boxes of stuff. And these I definitely am just going to kind of glance through. I'll probably be able to tell pretty quickly if there's anything, although I might have some foundation reckoning to do. These boxes get kind of dirty because they're in the top of my vanity. I know that that looks like it's still dirty, and it is, but it's just because it's a dirty box now. It's just a box. It's not like an acrylic container or something. And these are permanent stains, but it's fine with me. Not everything can be nice. This is a mascara. It's in the wrong place. I love this primer. I'm keeping that. But I think that the Yensa Tone Up, let me see how we're doing on this. I am not going to keep this. I've kept it through so many declutters. I've made good progress on it, and I just keep using the ones that I truly love. This, the VDL Lumilayer Primer, the Glossier Future Dew, and it's just gotten to the point where I'm like, I feel like I'm dragging it along. I'm gonna keep my concealers. This I need to use up, but I don't think that it makes sense to declutter it. It's the YSL Touche Claw. And I've had it for a long time, and I've used it almost completely all the way up. Yeah, this is a good reminder. I need to get to work on this. Here's another empty, though, that's mixed in here. The Sephora Bright Future Green Color Corrector. This is my holy grail color corrector, although we all know there's nothing like grail. But when it comes to green color correctors, this is mine. You know, I say it's an empty, but I think I can probably get 2 or 3 good uses out of it. So I'm going to keep it in here and just finish it up over the next 2 or 3 days. But I did want to show it to you. It's pretty much done. Or as Joe would say, it's done for. I'm going to hang on to this foundation stick. I love the finish, even though it's a little bit pink for me. I'm going to hang on. Well, I'll put that with the other stuff. Should I put the eye primer? Where's my other eye primer? These are my 2 eyelid primers, the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion and the Alter Ego Eyeshadow Base. I'm going to hang on to them. Hang on to this powder. This is like a slightly more luminous powder, and the Givenchy one is a slightly more mattifying and kind of color correcting powder. So I do use both of them. But y'all, I don't know what to do. I don't feel fond feelings for this Urban Decay foundation. I do feel fond feelings, or I did feel fond feelings about the Morphe one. And then I was using it for a couple of weeks, and then every time I looked in the mirror later in the day, it would seem kind of like dry on me, or it's like it didn't wear well throughout the day on me. I think I'm just going to keep these and keep playing with them and keep asking myself questions about them, keep updating you guys on my reviews of them. I am not trying to push myself in this declutter. The intention is not to get rid of as much as possible. It's just to kind of do a light sweep. And because my feelings aren't clear, I'm just going to keep them. Today I'm going to be decluttering complexion products. They're all here. So this is all my primers, foundations, concealers, powders, color correctors, just everything I use to fix up my complexion. I actually even threw in my eye primers because I only have 3. I get a lot of use out of these products because I wear them, like whether I'm on camera or not. I kind of tend to wear something from this box almost daily, even if I'm not even wearing mascara or doing my brows. You know what I mean? I'll usually do something just to take down the redness on my skin and make myself feel a little bit more put together. And I'm really excited to whittle it down to my absolute favorite, most used products and just have this really favorite part of my makeup drawer be condensed, utilitarian, and ideal in every way. Wow, I have a lot of priming products, and they don't all serve the exact same purpose. I've kind of separated things out into groups. So down here are the priming products. These are the 3 eye primers. Here I have powder, and these are, you know, foundations and concealers, like actual complexion products. And these are green color correctors. But I just realized that Givenchy powder is missing. So I went looking for it, and I found it. And yeah, what I was about to say is that when they're all laid out, I kind of had a sense of how many color correctors I had. I think I probably kind of had a sense of how many complexion products I had and powders. I'm a little bit surprised by the number of primers, and that might be because I keep some of these sort of with my skincare. Primers are kind of like hybrid makeup skincare products to me, and some of them I think of more as the final step in the skincare routine, and some of them I think of more as the first step in the makeup routine. So they've kind of been living in separate places in my collection, and I didn't realize that I had amassed so many. I'm really raring to go, but let me organize a little bit so we can go category by category, because I think that makes sense in this case. Let us start with eye primer. I always use an eye primer when I'm putting on eyeshadow. It just really helps eyeshadows stick on my hooded and sometimes oily and sometimes watery lids. This one from Alter Ego is new. They just sent it to me when they launched their most recent palette. I like it. I'm going to keep this one. This is actually probably going to become my primary eye primer going forward. The Urban Decay Primer Potion is what I've been using for a long time. This was also PR. I didn't buy this myself. I have bought this before though. This is a really reliable product for me. I'm trying to
see how much is left. Yeah, I've used most of it. I feel like it must be more than 6 months old, but not as old as a year. I'm gonna hang on to this and try to finish it. This is an eye primer from Kaleidos. It's a new product. They sent it to me with their recent Night of Creation launch, and I don't really like it. It's a really dark color for me. It really darkens my lids to a peach color. It's kind of liquidy, and then it dries in a really palpable layer rather than feeling sort of like skincare for the lids. I'm gonna declutter this one and focus on the other two. Okay, here we go. Primers, priming products for the face. Let's look at the illuminators first, like the ones that are really illuminating. I would say these three are extremely illuminating. Like well, this one is kind of in this category, actually. These two are extremely illuminating. They are actually highlighters rather than primers. I've had them both for a while. As you may be able to tell, I mean, it's lying on its back, so it's a little bit hard to see, but I've used about half of this one from Chanel. Yeah, it's so liquidy that when I tilt it up and look at it from the side, I can see that I've used about half of it. Auric Glow Lust is one of my favorite products, just period. And lately I've been using it when I want a luminous cheek instead of using a highlighter on top. I find that it really holds its own, especially because I don't tend to wear super full coverage foundation all over my cheeks. If I just lay this down as part of my priming routine in the places where I want highlighting, I don't have to highlight later. I love this as a really, really bright, brightening color on me. It is going nowhere, right? I really, really love this. I feel like if I were just going to keep one illuminating priming product, it would be this. The Chanel one is a little bit harder to decide about because holding it here in my hands and feeling its specialness, just, you know, the luxury packaging, the Chanel packaging. I've owned very few pieces of makeup from Chanel. Maybe only this one. This is maybe my only Chanel makeup ever. And I do like having really high-end feeling and looking things around. And part of what I'm hoping to accomplish by decluttering my makeup collection is having enough kind of clarity and space around my things that the really high-end things can shine just as they are in addition to me using them. But the fact is that I haven't used this in 6 months. I haven't used it since we moved from LA because I've been testing other things. You know, I had 4 primers to test over the summer. It has a quality that causes me to shy away a little bit from complexion products, which is that it's strongly scented. It's not totally prohibitive for me, but kind of given the choice, sometimes when something's scented, that's the thing that causes me to reach for something else. I just don't know. Practically, this is the kind of thing that should go. But the fact that it's Chanel and that it's really pretty in its bottle and that I know it's really pretty on the skin is making it harder for me to part with this one. I'm going to keep it as a maybe, but it'll be on the chopping block at the end. Okay, the Wet n Wild Glass Correct is a great product. I featured this recently. Again, I'm trying to see how much is left. I featured this recently in a video, Old Makeup That Still Slays. And you know, it still slays. It's a really great drugstore version of like a moisturizing, nourishing, illuminating primer and a little green color corrector to boot. Okay, so pushing out all the air and now some products coming out, that's how much is left. I used actually quite a lot of this. And then I haven't used it anytime over the past 6 months until I used it in that recent video. You know, I dug it out and I was like, oh yeah, this still slays, but I haven't been using it because I've been testing a bunch of other things. I feel like it's in that place where I can in good conscience declutter it because I have gotten so much use out of it, you know, and I've made a lot of content around it, gotten to know it really well. I actually wore this on my wedding day, but I'm tempted to keep it and just use it up, you know, because it's almost used up. I think I might be having a hard time getting off the ground with this declutter because here's the thing, even though the 3 of these are different, right? And I have actually made videos in which I really parsed the differences in these 3 substances up close. I'll try to link any of those down below. Even though they're different, given the choice on any given day, I'll use the one from Auric. To me, it's the best substance. Everything about it is perfect and it's just a little bit above the other 2. The viciousness with which I'm hoping to approach this declutter dictates that I just keep this one. I would like to just have this one on my vanity and not have to make the decision. I'm going to be brave and do it. I'm going to declutter both of these. Okay, I feel like that really popped the membrane and now we're off and running. This is one of my favorite priming products. It's like, this is a true hybrid skincare primer. My favorite of the 4 that I tested in that round of testing 4 products like this. I'll definitely use this up. It's the Natasha Denona Skin Glass. And these to me aren't mutually exclusive. Like I'll put the Skin Glass all over my skin and then put a little dab of the Auric just on my cheekbones for more highlighting, because we're moving into a little bit of a different category here. The VDL Lumilayer Primer, I have a nearly full one of these. I think my friend Simbri had one, like had gotten one in PR, had an extra one, and gave it to me because she knows that I really love this product. And I do really love it. I've loved it in the past. I've gone through an entire bottle of it, I think twice, maybe even more times than that, sort of in the 2nd and 3rd year of my YouTube channel, right? Those of you who've been around for a long time remember my relationship with this. It has that sort of soap bubble translucency, gives a really nice glassy finish to the skin. And having this full bottle has shown me that I've sort of moved on to other things because I don't tend to use it. I think because of the blue cast to that soap bubble translucency, I'm just not as into that anymore. I'm more likely to reach for something like the Auric, which has more pigment in it and is therefore going to help tone down my redness in a little bit more of an aggressive way. Also, because this is nearly full, I can definitely give it away to one of my cousins or to a friend. I don't think I'm quite ready to let go of the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin because it's so moisturizing when my skin is super dry. I'm also going through it at kind of a rapid rate of speed. I would say it's probably half empty. Let's keep it for now. Oh, but this is going to be tough. I love the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I've actually kind of picked this back up again lately, and I'm also going through it at a rapid rate of speed. I won't be surprised if I finish this up within the next month or 2. And to me, the EXA Jumpstart Smoothing Primer ended up being kind of like a high-end feeling clean beauty version, liquid version of the e.l.f. I'm going to keep this as well because I think once I finish the e.l.f., I'll miss having like a pore smoothing, semi-mattifying primer. These are the only 2 that I have. And since this one is nearing being used up, I think it makes sense to keep EXA. But the Give Beauty All-Time Prime, it's just an oil. It's just an oil. It's a priming oil, but it's just an oil. It's also a really summery product. I am going to keep this because I really like it, but I think I'm going to start just using it on like my elbows and hands and knees and use it up that way because I'm not out here using this to prime my face. Okay, we have an illuminating base product. We have 2 kind of skincare-y, moisturizing, illuminating, priming products. And we have 2 genuine pore-filling, silicone-feeling primers. I don't know if they have silicone in them, but I always associate this kind of primer with like that silicone-y feeling. This is much better to me. This feels really approachable. I feel like I can get through these products with this number of them, and there's still a little bit of variety from which to choose. You know what? I'm just going to put this in my giveaway box. This is another thing I feel like one of my cousins would love to have. I'm like, oh, it's a nice substance. I'll hang on to it just because. And it's just like, no, I have so much, you know, I can give this away too. All right, let's do green color correctors. Are you ready? Are y'all ready for this? I think what I'm going to do is to just keep the only one I use every day. This is by far my favorite green color corrector. I like it because it has kind of a gray cast. It also has good coverage. It has a nice finish. There's a little bit of clay in it, so it just gives my skin a nice finish, helps to balance everything. There are days when my skin's in pretty good shape where I just wear this all over my face and then do a tiny bit of spot concealing on old scars, and that's it. This is like my most used concealer, basically. And all of these, I got them for review. And you know, I have them kicking around, and so I end up reaching for one. Sometimes I'll use one because when I reach for a green color corrector, I find it first. Oh, this is also from Chanel. I was saying before that I thought I had only tried 1 or 2 things from Chanel. This is the other one. And I like it. And it works for me, but it has a little bit of that milky opacity and a little bit more of that kind of blue-green quality. It's just not quite as good for my pale olive skin as the one from EXA. These were for review. You know, I I got them for a video. I tried all the green color correctors at Ulta and compared them all to each other. They really served their purpose, and then some of them have continued, especially the LA Girl Pro Conceal has continued to be of use to me. It's funny, it's the greenest one. And sometimes when I have really stubborn redness, I'll reach for this to neutralize that. The one from EXA can do that job too. And I'm really trying to simplify here. They can all go, and this one can do the job. Okay, let's talk about powder. I'm not really a powder wearing, I am a powder wearing person. I don't know why I was saying that. I'm not like a powder buying person. I feel like powder to me, it's like, I don't know, it's like a roll of toilet paper. It's like it serves its purpose and you don't need a variety. You know what I mean? You just need the one that does the thing. Can you imagine having like 5 toilet paper holders lined up on the wall and like 5 different textures of toilet paper to choose from? That's kind of what it feels like to have a bunch of different powder. That's kind of what it feels like to me. However, that might be because I'm a little bit uneducated about powder. I'm sort of just learning. And these ones are all different. The one from Kosas is by far my most used. I feel like it sets product, it diffuses the look of texture. It takes down shine, but it doesn't mattify. It's like the mochi skin powder, you know? And I feel like I can't overuse it and get dry skin. So I think that's why it's the most dependable for me. But it's also the subtlest. It's kind of like the least powdery powder. Since resuscitating it for the Old Makeup That Still Slays video, I have fallen back in love with the Givenchy. I've been using it more. It helps me get that kind of like porcelain skin finish. It's a bit more mattifying, a very finely milled powder. So I just feel like I reach for these two all the time. I'm always out there like, where's the Kosas powder? Where's the Givenchy powder? These two, on the other hand, I use just because they're there. This is new from Sigma. I used it recently in a video trying new makeup, and it's great, actually. It's really light diffusing. It helps to soften texture, but I just don't need more powder. And I do tend to accidentally overdo it with this and end up with kind of dry skin. So it's also brand new. Like I just opened it to test it like a week or two ago. So I'll give this away. This is the Kosas powder on my pointer finger, and that's the Make Beauty powder. They're almost the same color. Kosas maybe a tiny bit more truly neutral, and they feel like the same texture too. So basically, the Givenchy is a finishing powder, right? It's to change the finish of the skin a little bit, make it more that porcelain smooth. It's just my one finishing powder. These are both setting powders. And here's the struggle. I feel like the Kosas one is my favorite, but I like the packaging of the Make one better. I really like using it. And I feel like it's a bit more mattifying and it holds its own a bit more. The Kosas one, if I'm having an oily skin day, there's nothing I can do. I can't add enough of this powder to actually counteract that. It always lets my skin sort of still glow. Whereas the Make one, it gives me a little bit more mattifying. So that's going to be my excuse for keeping 2. Even though for me, I feel like it's a little bit excessive. I probably just need 1. At least for this round, I'm going to keep 2. Okay, the moment. This is the moment that we've all been waiting for, or at least the moment that I've been waiting for. Let's start with these two, the easy ones. I got these for review. This is the Patrick Ta Balm Foundation, and I like the powders, but the foundation part, the creams, didn't work for me texture-wise, but the biggest issue just when it comes to whether I use them going forward is the shades. They're both too dark for me. I don't feel like this shade range has a genuinely fair end of the range. They sort of stop at light, or at least what most brands would call light. This is the quintessential example of makeup that I just got for review, and that was its only purpose. I can't donate these because they're creams, but I can probably give these away to my cousins, and complexion products, it's like their favorite thing to inherit from me, so I feel confident I'll be able to do that. The Rose Ink Concealer is conspicuous by its absence. It had started to separate like last month, the last time I used it. I had used it almost all the way up, and the last little bit that was in there, it was like the oil was separating from the pigment. So it's long gone. And I need to remind myself at this moment that I've been missing it quite a lot and planning to replace it. Like I'm planning to buy it again. And as much as I like all of these products and have given all of them a good review, because I don't hang on to a product like this if I don't like it, you know, I mean, except for the Patrick Taub. It was just because I hadn't gotten around to decluttering it yet. But I think everything that's here still, I have given a good review. They're all great products, but the Rose Ink Concealer and the RMS Foundation are truly great products for me because they really, really match my skin and they are very pigmented. So I can manipulate them, mix them, and use them to do whatever I want. So I just need to remember that. Pretend the Rose Ink Concealer is here. That's my main gig for concealer. And the RMS Foundation is here. That's my main gig for foundation. I'm gonna make some hard decisions here. I'm just preparing myself. But first I'm going to make an easy decision, which is to get rid of this Makeup Forever Ultra HD Concealer in the shade Pearl. It's a really skin-like concealer, a really great formula, but I got it way back when I didn't really understand my undertone. So I used it again recently, and when I used it, I realized how much closer I've gotten to owning makeup that matches me than I was when I owned this as my main concealer. And I also remembered that it's quite old. So its time has come. Now the hard decisions. The Purito BB cream. I love it because it is a BB cream, so it's really, really nourishing. Like, it feels good going on the skin, and it's also extremely pigmented. It doesn't have that sort of tinted lotion feeling going on. It really smooths blotchiness and uneven tone on the skin. Like, it's really, really great. And I was super excited about this when I first tested it because the color is so gray. And even though it's several shades too dark for me, like way too dark for me, it blended into my skin in this sort of magical way that I had never seen before at the time. And it was one of my first clues that I might have an olive undertone, or that I had kind of like this desaturated undertone, you know? That has really helped me figure out what to try going forward. But now that I have gathered around me some more complexion products that work better, as much as I love this formula, I haven't been using it, and I don't really think of it as being my precious anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and let it go. I also, you know, I did use it quite a bit. It has seen many a day with me. So part of the reason that I feel like I can let go of that BB cream from Purito is that the white foundation from House Labs, this is a House Labs Triclone, which I got for a review a couple of months ago. It to me has kind of a BB cream consistency. And I feel like when I mix it into any of my ideal colored complexion products like the RMS or the Rose Ink, it kind of turns it into a BB cream, and it also lightens it up a little bit, adds some nourishing, slippy qualities. I'm going to keep this. I've found it to be incredibly useful. I use it all the time. And sometimes I just mix it with my green color corrector and just apply that kind of as a BB cream. This has really become one of my most used complexion products. Okay, the hard decisions are continuing. Okay, Monica Blender cover. I think this is such a great product, and I will make sure to link below or in the cards right now my video about balm foundations, because when I first discovered this, it was the same time as I was discovering a couple of other balm foundations, and I did a video all about them in which I provided very, very detailed close-up application footage of this product and sung its praises as it deserves. It's really, really great. Actually, I was going to declutter it, but now that I'm remembering all of the things I said about it in that video, I'm thinking maybe the issue is just that I haven't been reaching for it. And the other thing that I remember about this is that I think of it as being a tiny bit too pink. I need to do some swatching. Okay, so here we have the RMS foundation, which is a really, really great shade match for me. And there we have the blender cover. They're not actually that different. And the thing about the blender cover is that because it's like a balm, it doesn't oxidize as it dries. Whereas the RMS, I don't think it oxidizes very much, but I think it changes a tiny bit. And the Rose Ink, I'm now remembering when I swatch it next to the blender cover, it looks lighter at first, but when it dries a little bit darker. I think in my mind, I think of the blender cover as not being an ideal match for me, but it's actually a much better match than I think of it as being. Can you see though how the RMS foundation is just, it's really, you can see how olive it is. It's a pretty close thing, but I feel like the RMS just looks like it has a little bit of green mixed into it in a way that the blender cover doesn't. Do I want to hang on to this product even though I haven't been using it and give it another chance and try to reconnect with what I loved about it? I think it's going to depend on everything else. It's going to depend on what else I decide to do. Okay, the Kosas foundation is hard for me to part with because I love the texture, but it is clearly a bit more yellow or like a little bit more orange, you know, than these two. Swatching it next to them, I can let it go. I love it. I'm fond of it, but I can let it go. I just use so little foundation at one time. Realistically, I'm not going to make it through more than one or two of this kind of thing, you know? That's why I'm whittling it down so completely. The NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer, of course, can stay. I use this to spot conceal. And lately, I have been dealing with some blemishes and scars. I've been using this pretty much every day. Okay, here we have two concealers, each from a brand of which I am fond. Right, this is the Kosas, and this one is from Make. Both of these I just got for review, and both of them are really, really skin-loving. Like, really hydrating, beautiful in their finish. I just love putting them onto my skin, and they're sort of thinner and more nourishing than most of the other complexion products that I use. So I do kind of find myself mixing them in, like throwing them into the mix just for texture, even when I'm using like the Rose Ink or the RMS or other things that match me better, because that's the thing. Neither one of these really matches me all that well, especially not the one from Make Beauty, but this is pretty new to me. And I've been enjoying using it so much just because of the way that it makes my skin look. With a light layer, I can get away with it. It's hard to part with it right now because it's so new. Although swatching it next to these others really shows me how poor of a match it is comparatively. And the Kosas one, I mean, look, here's the RMS, which is like, that's the pale olive. That's a really good match. And you can see the Kosas, it's peacher. You know what I mean? It's brighter and peacher. I sometimes reach for it to brighten up my under eyes and to add a kind of creaminess. I wonder if it's the Make that has to go, but I like using it so much. It's like I'm fond of them. I'm fond of them because they carry that fantasy of concealer, kind of from the old days when I first learned about makeup. That fantasy of just like a really creamy, lightweight, bright concealer. I love using them. And maybe that's enough of a reason to keep them, even if I'm really parsing it on a practical level. They kind of do the same thing as each other. Neither one of them is a really great color match. But it is true that the Rose Ink concealer, it's really, really pigmented. So I think I want to keep at least one of these to have that variety. Something a little bit more lightweight to throw into the mix sometimes. It's got to be the Kosas. I can't keep this. It's just too orange. I do really enjoy the packaging, the application of this, and I'm really glad that I got the chance to review it. But if I'm clearing the decks and simplifying going into the new year, I can feel good about letting it go. Okay, so the Rose Ink concealer is here, a highly pigmented, really great match. Then I also have this lightly pigmented or sort of less pigmented, more serum-y concealer that is kind of brightening on me. And then I have a spot concealer. I also have this high pigment, high coverage, serious foundation that's a really good match, and the product that I like to mix it with. I think it makes sense to keep one freestanding balm foundation. And I say freestanding because I also have the Salt New York products. I haven't been including them in this declutter because I feel like my Salt New York collection is sort of its own freestanding thing that I am going to continue to use to make content, like to use for comparisons and stuff like that. It kind of like lives in its own little space. It doesn't live in the drawer with this stuff. So I'm going to see how it goes for the time being, keeping this balm foundation in my drawer. I'm going to see if I use it. I'm just going to give it one more chance. Okay, here's what's left. We have primers, eye primers, powders, and complexion products, and just imagine the Rose Ink concealer is there as well. I'm doing a final reckoning, and I'm also tempted to bring back the Make concealer, even though it's too dark and too orange for me. I just love putting it on my face. Is that a crime? What is it like if it's here? All right, I'm sitting here having a little talk with myself about how much I want to simplify in the new year, and also the neighbors like banging something. Somebody's like hammering away just in the next yard over. The video is almost over, so I'm just going to power through. I really want to simplify things right now. In fact, so much so that I've been thinking about simplify just being my New Year's resolution. Holding on tight to that, I'm going to take one more pass. I'm going to go ahead and let go of the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin because even though it is a really great hydrating product, and even though there have been times when I feel like it really, the syrupy thick quality of it really rescues my skin when it's super dry, I don't love the fruity smell. And I feel like the Skin Glass, which I used a lot when I was testing and I really loved, but I haven't been using as much lately because, you know, just there are other things in the mix. I feel like Natasha Denona Skin Glass can do what Yummy Skin does for me if I need it. And I really want to use Skin Glass up. I really want to use Auric Glow Lust more. And I think just having these be like the only two options, just like this is what I prime with now if I'm not going with something more mattifying, and then this is what I use to illuminate, and that's just it, and that's how it is. That's what I mean by simplifying. For the eye primers, I'm tempted to simplify by just saying, okay, now that I have this brand new one and it's going to take me ages to get through because, you know, it's not as though I go through eye primers at a rapid rate of speed. I'm tempted to do that, but I think what I'm going to do is to keep one of them down here in the filming studio and keep the other one in my bedroom, because eye primer is something that I almost always forget to bring down with me, and then I have to like get up in the middle of filming and go get it. So that's a really good solution for me. For the powders, it makes sense to me to have like a Mochi skin setting powder, a little bit more traditional of a setting powder, and a finishing powder. I think I'm okay there. And here, let's just take one more pass. So this is a definite must stay, use it all the time. 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 These are the three that are sort of on the chopping block. Blender cover, I really do want to give it another chance. I want to see how it will strike me if I start using it again now. And I think that once I have the Rose Ink Concealer, I won't miss either of these, even though they're a little more watery. The idea is to simplify. And I think that I'll be really happy with just my one concealer that I know from experience when I have it, it's the one I always reach for. It works for everything. There we go. This is what I was angling at. My precious. Here's the box of decluttered products. I'm decluttering about 20 products from this category, keeping 14, and I'm going to be repurchasing that one that I used up a couple of months ago. Okay, that's it for complexion. I can't wait to put this little collection back into my vanity. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Again, don't forget to subscribe if you aren't subscribed yet, especially if you want to see more content like this coming soon. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.